Stephen Abba. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Mercy.
You look good, by the way.
Yeah, you too. Mercy, something occurred on during the weekend, last weekend, and it has to do with the bombings in Borno State. You see, I was beginning to wonder if we are, the bombing modus operandi ceased for a long time. Then all of a sudden we started hearing about three consecutive bombings in Borno State. I was wondering if we are safe. Now it's even difficult for me to go to the market.
Yeah.
Because they've started targeting. Of course, that is what suicide bombing is all about. They target where you have crowd. So we have one at the wedding, another one at the hospital. Can't remember where the third one happened again.
Yeah. And sadly, that incident, it took life of civilians and even
Yeah.
a military personnel.
Yes.
That is very sad. And while they were trying to detonate one of the bombs prematurely, the suicide bomber was the only casualty.
Yeah.
But reactions have been trailing ever since that incident, and we even have reactions from the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, coming to say that the era of terrorism should not return back to the north. And that statement there, if you underline it, it has a lot of weight underneath it.
Yeah.
Because one, the northern states have been one that have been constantly attacked by these terrorists, and there have been lots of efforts over the years to try and curb it. And efforts have been made because for a long time now, the issue of at least the bombing have ceased for a while now.
Yeah.
For these terrorists to now be returning, it means that what they do is when a new government comes on board, they see your body language, they understand your operations and how your modalities that you put in place to tackle security, and they see if they pose a threat towards them, if they should step back or march forward. And for them coming, it means to say that all the military strategies have been put in place under these administrations. They have studied that, they have seen that it has no much effect upon them, and they can come back. But remember that when President Tinubu came on board and had this reformation in the security outfit, it was so much applause cut across states in Nigeria, because they were seeing that it didn't carry any religious undertone in it or ethnic undertone. It was even more of people who wore the shoes, feeling the impact of this security. They were manning office, especially in southern Kaduna. So therefore, people were hoping that at least the issue of insecurity wouldn't be, one of the characteristics of this administration. Something that one could relate to when you talk about this administration.
When it comes to, security is an unending activity. For example, when you build your house, you secure your fence. You don't say, okay, because we don't have anything that is a threat to our security, will knock up the fence or knock up the fences. No. Security is always an ongoing activity, and is a process that should be maintained and sustained.
Yeah.
Now, anytime we have insecurity or security issues in Nigeria, I don't know why I always blame the government. Blame the government because you don't usually fight security after it has happened. I'm sorry, you don't usually fight insecurity when the threat has already been taken out. Has expressed itself. You fight insecurity by preventing whatever plans these people have before it happened. So you should build your intelligence. I don't really know how we operate here, but I don't think our intelligence is strong enough. You see, now we've had these bombings in Borno State. I know how these terrorists operate they operate in cells. So if you have like 100 people that are ready to be part of this terrorist group, you might say, okay, 10 of you are in this cell, so you divide 100 people into 10 cells. Then you activate one. The implication of activation is that you tell them what to do, their modus operandi, and you sponsor them. You sponsor their weaponry, you sponsor everything they need to have to carry out their activities. Now you might say, okay, from 2 to 10 rest, maybe for the next 5 years, it's just this one cell that is terrorizing the place. So the job of our intelligence is to see how these people, for example, they will arrest some bandits or Boko Haram persons, and they'll say they have absorbed them into the Nigerian military. Is that the best that we could do? I think we should quiz these people to tell us what and whom. See, insecurity, like Abacha said before he passed on, that when insurgents is maintained and sustained for 24 hours or more than 24 hours, it means the government in power are aware of what is happening. So now, when you have 3 consecutive bombings in a place, in a state, it's not just across Nigeria, it's in the state.
Yeah.
I think by now we should be having list of names.
Stephen, about you were talking about squeezing information or intel from people, suicide bombers who are ready to put their life on the line for the cause that they believe in passionately. That, I'm afraid, that may not necessarily work.
Okay, now,
because they don't mind losing their life.
Good.
They rather lose their life than sell out their members.
It's even beyond.
It is trying to, I think even the root cause of the problem is trying to even identify the cause which they are fighting or agitating for.
Mercy.
And address the issue from that angle.
Listen, in your right senses, do you think a sensible person in his or her right senses will actually strap some IEDs on him or herself and get herself blown up? It is usually, there is a brainwashing that happens. In fact, by the time they are done with brainwashing you, you are not even sure what you are. The only thing your mind is set on is to detonate that bomb. And another thing I kept asking again is, which is very possible, is that the detonator might not even be the person. They may just allow you walk into a crowd and it is detonated from somewhere else, somewhere that is within the range that the detonator can, So sometimes when that bomb is trapped around you, you don't have control over it anymore. It must be detonated.
Sadly,
so these are the intelligence we need to gather. These are the intelligence we need to gather, and by the time you gather intelligence, I tell you, you may not even shoot one bullet, or you do the necessary thing you're supposed to do.
Sadly, it happened in Benue.
Yeah.
People say it can't happen in Abuja, it can happen in Benue State.
Good.
What we need to tell the people now, in as much as tell governments to, strengthen its security architecture and see that this doesn't happen again, because number one of the major priorities of the government is to protect the lives and property of its citizens. And a government that fails to do that is a failed government.
Yeah.
No two ways about it. But in the meantime, what people need to know is, in a scenario where there is a bomb blast, usually they don't come just one, and these are security tips that are making rounds. So people need to be knowledgeable on how to handle themselves in situations like this. So if you find yourself in such an environment and there happens to be a bomb explosion, what you have to do is not to run, but lie down flat. And the reason is because the bomb, once it hits the ground, it first bounces up and explodes. It doesn't explode from the ground. So that's why if you're running, it's not meet you halfway cut your leg, affect you. But if you're lying down flat, even if you're going to sustain injury, it's just be very minor. So those are the things that people really need to know. And after the first one, don't stand up to run, because usually there's always another one and another one probably. And so wait for 2 or 3 more attempts.
You know that you are not a security expert, but you're able to reel this out, isn't it? But I now expect our security experts to begin to do jingles. Let the people know the implications of this. Let people know that when you have a bomb blast, the first thing you do, that is because the moment the bomb blasts, for example, they said a gunshot that will kill you, you won't hear it. You won't hear this shot. But the fact that you heard it, it means you are still alive. No, that is it's scientifically proven that by the bullet that kills you, you don't hear the gun, you don't hear the shot, you can't hear it. But the moment you heard it, it means you are safe. So now, by the time the first blast goes off and you are still alive, the best thing to do is to lie down, because there may be a second one. So maybe you pay attention. Now they should begin to tell us lists of things to note when we're in the crowd, and when somebody looks suspicious, the things we need to look for. We should be having such jingles now all over Nigeria.
And another thing that we really need to hammer on is the mere fact that our communities need to stop harboring these criminals of fear of what they may do to them eventually. Because when you harbor them and you already show them your weakness, that you're scared of them, with the intention of trying to protect yourself. You're not protecting yourself in the long run, but immediately, because definitely the devil in them will grow even bigger, and of course they will take over. They'll keep asking, demanding more from you, and overturn your community eventually. So let's our communities be more courageous,
Yes.
And then frown at these criminal elements that try to seek shelter or harbor in our community for safe haven, with the intention or promise that they will keep them safe and affect the other. It doesn't work like that. We don't live in islands, right?
The thing is that when they're telling you be safe, protect you, it's a lie. At the long run, you still become a victim.
Yeah.
Victim because J.P. Clark said we are casualties. By the time war happens, either you are dead or you are maimed or your relative dies, your house is destroyed. We are all casualties. So a point comes, we all become casualties. And what Nigerians should know is that terrorists feed on fear. They feed on your fear. Now, what's the worst that can happen? That I ask myself those questions. What is the worst that can happen? If my actions can protect 100 people, if my actions can protect 1,000 people, then I should do the needful. A point comes, even your own life may not be as valuable as you think because of the circumstances on ground. So make decisive decisions and do the needful, because a point comes, whether you like it or not, you'll be a victim.
Yeah.
So we should do what we need to do to protect Nigerians, to protect anything we need to protect in this country. So these are the things Nigerians need to know. And I tell you, our security experts by now should begin to tell Nigerians what to do in the face of terrorism, what we need to know when we see a terrorist, and the body language that these people express when they are in our midst. We should begin to know them now. And please go on the internet, Google whatever you need to Google to know how to protect yourself in this time. Because if, like we've always said, if a system is not taking care of you, mercy, you need to create a microsystem within the system to take care of yourself. That is why people have boreholes in their houses, because we don't have potable water. That is why people buy generators, because we don't have 24-hour power supply. That is why people do other things, so that their life will be comfortable, at least minimally. So even with security, it is like that. People have their guards and their security men. Ordinarily, we are not supposed to have all those things. But because government is not doing enough, that is why people are doing this thing within the system to take care of themselves. And as far as security is concerned, I think we should begin to think about that too. What is your take on that?
Well, I would say that my opinion sadly differs a lot from you. I would rather, because the more, what this saying they say about Nigerians being so annoyingly accommodating and tolerant.
Yeah.
It's because we find a way of living the system that is failing us, and just seeing how we can within ourselves take care of ourselves, and the system becomes more comfortable, not living up to its responsibilities. But by the time you are in an estate and everybody have no light, have no water, then they begin to feel so agitated, and then they march to the government. Then they'll begin to compel the government to the needful.
Okay.
No much tolerance to irresponsibility or lack of
I
accountability. That's why outside Nigeria, like the Americans, they don't play with the basic amenities. You have to provide it, because they are not thinking of how they can do this mini structure you're talking about, taking care of it. No.
Okay,
you have to do it.
I need to say something, and then two folds. The strongest instinct is self-preservation. So when you begin to lack the sense of self-preservation, that is when you take this measure. But by the time you feel, well, I can take care of this, what is the big deal? Okay, generator. Okay, let me get a generator, get 4 liters of fuel, and I can power my house at least for 3 hours. But when you begin to lack, for example, a place like US, you have skyscrapers up to 70 stories. How do you manage that? If let's say that you have power outages and you are supposed to use the elevator, how do you manage that? You can't manage it. So the government has to do something about it. But if you are living in a house where it's just the floor, you may not necessarily have the problem the person living on the 50th floor has. So these are two different, and the US is so advanced that you need technology to power it. Nigeria is not as advanced as the US yet. There's no place for comparison. The only thing that we can compare ourselves with is that they are humans, we're humans. So in terms of their society, it is highly powered by technology, and that technology must be sustained. Of course, they've taken care of that. They have nuclear power stations where for 50 years they can tell you this light has not blinked yet. Can we manage nuclear power stations in Nigeria yet? These are the questions we should be asking, because that is, for now, is like the solution to power. If you have it, you don't need to go through all the things we go through in this country. So do we have it? So we're not even technologically, we're not even advanced yet, so there will not be any need for comparison. But the truth of the matter is that if you keep on waiting, you may not achieve what you want to achieve. So that is why people take their children from public schools to private schools, because they felt or they feel that public schools are not doing what they are supposed to do. So they will have to shift the children to these places. That was why I said that. Okay, now look at Kenya, for example. As at 2 days ago, about 39 people have been killed as a result of the protest. Okay, Kenyans are saying we are not going to bend backwards. We are not going to turn the walls that you've pushed us to into a curtain, because I say that Nigerians don't have walls behind them. You can't push a Nigerian to the wall. When you push him to the wall, he turns the wall to a curtain and he falls inside. It means he has to adapt, just like what we're saying now. But then, it is not, you can't sustain it for a long time. And when I say can't sustain it for a long time, an administration may succeed in that, but a second administration may not. So now, Ruto has reversed all the bills he passed concerning tax rise. But the people are saying, Ruto, you must go.
Yeah. Of course, the damages have been done already.
Yeah, so
lost lives,
they are not interested in him staying back.
Of that protest.
They are interested in him. And you see,
there has to be consequences.
Thank you very much.
I mean, the people say
that
they always use excessive, power because of that protest, and there has to be repercussions. And you just reversing now is not going to bring back the lives of people who were lost as a result of that protest. That was aimed to be just be peaceful and express the people's desire.
Yeah.
But that's what happens in a sane society.
In fact, by now, Ruto should be thinking about resignation without being told, because it's a failure on his part. But he still stays on there because he's an African. This is the normal thing with Africans. When we get onto the seat, we use glue to gum our buttocks to the seat until it is forcefully removed.
That is if he even feel he has wronged the system or the people. Remember, in his response, he did say that that if the police did use force because of the protest, then there are mechanisms to address that issue.
Yes.
So it means that he doesn't really feel he has done anything, extremely wrong to warrant him resigning.
And that is where African leaders, no, political managers, because I don't like calling politicians leaders, because they don't behave the way leaders behave. So they are political managers. The way they behave is that they don't really care about the people, because in life, I tell people, do you know how long it took somebody to become 30 years? And do you know the investment that has gone into that life before the person became 30? And you just snuff out that life in a second, and you go home, you sleep, and you are comfortable. Now we are not talking about just one person, we are talking about 39 people. I don't know how many people that have died after that day. And you just make statements because you are the president. It doesn't change anything.
With over 600 arrests.
Yes. So now all we're saying is that Kenyans are tired. They are tired of bending backwards. They are tired of turning the wall into curtains. And they are tired of creating that micro environment within the environment that refuses to take care of it. That is what has happened. That is where it will get to when you take people's softness now, people's adaptable nature for granted, because we are very adaptable in Nigeria. We laugh over everything. We create skits around everything, and people just laugh over it, and we move on. And I think our political managers are aware of this now, and they're taking advantage of that. So somebody can just come on and say, this is what we're going to do. And a skit maker will bring 2 or 3 skits about it, and we laugh over it, and it's gone. But the truth of the matter is that we don't know the environment we are creating for our children. I used to tell people that the average Nigerian behaves as if he's the only one alive to use the resources available. We don't know that the children that are yet to be born, even in 100 years, are also, they have rights to the resources we have in Nigeria. So we are supposed to be using them, thinking that there is tomorrow. But we use them as if there's no tomorrow, it is just us and our immediate families. No, I think we should change our mentality concerning that. If Africans will begin to change our mentalities about that, then we'll get through. Well, we've been talking so much about what has been happening in this country and of course across Africa. We'll be bringing you much on this as the program progresses. We'll be going on a short break. Please do stay.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 30th June 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form cost 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569. Benue Fashion Show, embracing fusion fashion. Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 30th June 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form cost 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569. Benue Fashion Show, embracing fusion fashion. Benue.
A day after his ordination as a Catholic priest, Reverend Father Godwin Bem has returned to God in thanksgiving. Among worshippers and well-wishers at this Thanksgiving Mass is his elder brother, who is the governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia. Governor Alia sees priestly ministry as a divine but difficult call that requires commitment and the support of God's people to succeed. The governor challenges young people to draw inspiration from the dedication and commitment of the newly ordained priest by engaging in meaningful ventures as his government is willing to empower them for the good of humanity. He uses the event to announce the intention of his administration to soon embark on a talent hunt across the state with the aim to unlock skills for the development of Benue State.
Good morning. Washima uvele tagida fanta gida pasne kala na shateva. She uluye toro na lune tayoro anhe tom fada kanyo tekeke poe nyane vatsemu fada.
For the newly ordained priest, Father Godwin Bem, his ordination as a Catholic priest is a dream come true. He hopes to use his ministry service to God without reservations, propagating the gospel of Christ, helping as many to receive a happy life after his sojourn on earth.
This is a life that I have agreed to embrace wholeheartedly with my life. So I'm ready for the challenges, whether they are more than me. I don't think there's any challenge that is more than me because I have God on my side. As my friend would say, so I'm not afraid of challenges, and I don't have a vision any challenge that will be beyond me because I have God.
President General of Bangu Development Association, Kevin Kaha, and a former member of the House of Representatives for Jechira Federal Constituency, Mrs. Dorothy Mato, are thankful to God for gifting the community 12 Catholic priests, hoping that more will come from the Bangu extraction to attend to the spiritual needs of the people. District Head of Madede, Chief Bambaki, assures the new priest of their fatherly blessings as he begins his priestly ministry of shepherding God's flock, urging him to follow the footsteps of his other brothers in the ministry to succeed. The newly ordained priest, Reverend Father Godwin Bem, prays and blesses the governor to succeed as a priest and governor. Emmanuel Akula, Benue Vision News, Makuti. A day after his ordination as a Catholic priest, Reverend Father Godwin Bem has returned to God in thanksgiving. Among worshippers,
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. Recently, we've been told that the House of Assembly has granted the local government autonomy. They say the National Assembly on Tuesday granted full financial and administrative autonomy to all the 774 local council authorities across Nigeria by amending Section 124 of the nation's constitution. This section provides a consequential provision for the making of the local councils a full third-tier government without undue interference from the state governments. The amendment was one of the 22 other approved by the House of Representatives last week and ratified by the Senate on Tuesday. Both chambers have, through a conference committee, harmonized versions of the amendments into the Constitution carried out by each of them last month. By this development, the National Assembly had ratified all the 23 clauses and sections that had been amended by both chambers. The newly amended document, which will be sent to State House of Assembly for approval, also approved the creation of the Office of the Auditor General of the local government as well as the State Local Government Service Commission. Let's see.
It's actually
This is good news.
one of the most peaceful, joyful news that, especially for we in the media, one of those kind of news where
we've been talking about
we
this.
sounded it on our lips and it felt so good,
Yeah.
right? Local government autonomy is something that has long been overdue. We've been clamoring for this for a very long time. Coupled with the fact that one will obviously see what the benefits and how development will really reach people at the grassroots in a shorter span than not granting local governments autonomy. But then the problem in Nigeria is not even law. It's implementation. And now that local governments have been granted the autonomy, how well will the governments at very cost across all the states in Nigeria, how well will they comply with this? Remember the issue of minimum wage, right?
Yeah.
It was passed across, but not up to now. Not all states have embraced the 30,000 naira minimum wage, and we're now having a conversation away from that, even 30,000 naira, ranging towards 62, 100,000, whatever the case may be, or that will be arrived at. But for the case of local government autonomy, yes, it's now granted. Remember, there has been hesitations from most states
governors.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
you would think they will want this, they want development to reach the grassroots. There has been that fear of diluting the powers of a state governor.
You see, when you know that, how you will know that your political manager is power drunk is when he or she refuses to break power down, to make it trickle down. He wants the power to be at the hems, at the top. This is why they replicate whatever happens at the federal level, and I'm afraid the local government political managers will also replicate what is happening at the state level. So it is not about, just like you said, it is not about the laws. Nigerian laws are they are very nice. If they are workable, if you work them, Nigeria will become the best polity you have in Africa. But the issue is implementation, and here I'm calling for mindset change. If we can change our mindset towards this country, if we can become more patriotic, I think the rules, by the time we apply them, they will be better for it. But a situation where we make rules and we just feel these rules are for some people, we are not supposed to adhere to this rule. I'll give you an example.
There should be. I feel there should be consequences to, as far as the local government economy is concerned, for states who fail to comply. But that's a conversation that I'm eagerly looking forward to having in the course of our program subsequently. But we're due for a break now to usher in our guests for a conversation.
Okay. Please do stay with us after this break.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 30th June 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form costs 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership, and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569. Benue Fashion Show, embracing fusion fashion.
Our guest is seated with us, and we'll be talking about a vision for peaceful restructuring in Nigeria and the battle for America's highest office. These are twofold topics in the course of this program. And seated with us is Dr. Frank Abagen, lecturer, BSU International Affairs Analyst. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, now, before now, we've been having agitations for restructuring, for equitable distribution of resources in Nigeria, and other things that have been mentioned. We will need you to give us an overview of what is restructuring and how did we get to the place where every Nigerian is agitating for restructuring.
Or at least most Nigerians.
Okay.
Or some Nigerians.
Thank you very much for this question. It's the never-ending question. We call it the national question now.
Okay.
A lot of people feel that the problem with our country is not the people operating the apparatus of governance, but the system itself. And to a minimal extent, I will say minimal, and I'll explain why.
Can you separate the system from the people?
Yeah, in some ways you can.
Right.
We have, for instance, in what we call more established democracies. I don't want to say advanced.
Okay.
It sounds too parochial because it seems as if we are very low down the ladder. In more stable democracies, in Europe, in America, we've seen a situation whereby institutions are stronger than people.
Yes.
The culture of the people there makes those institutions strong. So it doesn't matter who the American president is. The American state is powerful enough to checkmate his excesses. That's not the kind of situation we have here. And that's why the agitations for restructuring are reaching the decibels it is reaching now.
Yeah.
We've had attempts at restructuring. Restructuring simply means the realignment of the administrative structures of the country. That's simply what it means. Realignment of distributive systems. We have a three-tier government.
Yeah.
And you could say the debate on how our local government should be like is still a matter of contention, and it's just recently that debates on that. In fact, we even had a court case by the federal government. Federal government took the states to court over this issue. So we've also had attempts at redefining how Nigeria should be arranged in such a manner that all the component units benefit from the national wealth. Nigeria has, we use the term 250. We have more than 250 ethnic groups, about 482. According to last research we did, on 492. And each of these groups is clamoring for attention, clamoring for political space, clamoring for,
self-actualization.
Yes, self-actualization and relevance within the Nigerian project. And we'll see a situation whereby groups that are have this advantage of numerical strength and more in number dominate to more or less a situation of impunity. As a matter of fact, there's even some kind of problem with the major ones. We have the Hasafulani, the Igbo, and the Yoruba. I could say the Igbos are seriously agitating, even though they're a majority group. They have not ruled democratically before and all that, though there are reasons for that. So this agitation for restructuring is because many of these groups feel marginalized. Many of these groups want more relevance within the prevailing system. Many have also identified the system. This system is not benefiting us, is marginalizing us. That is what even led to the clamor for state creation, and the clamor is still continuing. We are saying that, look, why don't we, even within Benue, the clamor for a new state is still there. So this ultra-nationalistic disagreement stems from the fact that the political system as it is has not distributed its wealth fairly in terms of political benefits to the component units. And this is why the realignments of forces that are clamoring for this reform, this change is still going on. We've had attempts in the past, but due to certain political forces and to a certain extent insincerity of our public office holders, we've not been able to implement some of those reforms. Key case in point, during the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan, Nigeria spent a lot of money gathering what I would say is the best array of Nigerian brains in terms of whatever field, from traditional rulers to captains of industry to governance, personalities, all of them. They went and met in Abuja. And even the remuneration for each one of them was, I think, about 12 million, if I could remember. And they came out with a document. And that document had far-reaching, prescriptions on how to redefine our existence. How are we going to move forward with our corporate existence in such a manner that each of the component units feels a part of this particular Nigerian project we have. You can see what happened. It's been thrown in the corner. And a lot of people are saying that if we were to go back to that particular situation, that particular document that was prescribed, a lot of things won't be the way they are.
Is it a waste document? I mean, a report? I know there were.
No. The Constitutional Conference.
Okay, the
2014, yes.
Okay. All right.
A lot of people. As a matter of fact, there's a particular interview, the immediate past president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, he said that he kept the document aside because he doesn't believe in it. You don't do that. You check. Not everything in that document will be a bad one, especially when you have the kind of brains that discuss those issues. You put the people together, and then they made far-reaching prescriptions on what to do in whatever field: local government administration, state government, immunity for governors. All those were discussed. And we're saying that if we implement that document, so many of the challenges we see now, you won't see them.
The issue of restructuring came during Obasanjo's tenure. He kicked against it, only for him right now that he's no longer the president to be, agitating or clamoring for restructuring himself. And I begin to wonder, what is it with restructuring that when a government is empowered and have the willpower to actually do it, will not do it? We would see everything wrong with restructuring, but when you step aside, you begin to see that this may actually be the way to go.
It's part of what I was saying, the insincerity of our political leaders. Most of our political leaders, okay, let me give you a good example. Where there's a debate going on now about minimum wage.
Yes.
Many of the governors are kicking against this. And why? You're saying you can't afford. Meanwhile, Labour has the facts, has the details, they are the ones who help to generate the funds. You know that, look, if you're sincere, you can afford this. We need a national benchmark. Like in other countries, you have that. That's not to say that you cannot go and do collective bargaining at state level with Labour. But there should be a benchmark. And you're insisting that, no, you can't afford to pay. How about you showing accountability for your IGR? If we're going to hold most of our public officers to accountability, financial accountability, many of them will found wanting. This is why EFCC is busy. It's not a hidden thing anymore. So why would you refuse that? There's a story about a vice chancellor who was in government and stopped. There was something called a subvention to university. Every quarter, 3 months, you release money. It takes care of salaries and overhead costs and all that. So this was during the military era. As commissioner, he cancelled it, but he ended up as the vice chancellor in that university and regretted what he did. So these are some of the things we're talking about. It's not when you are outside a political office that you should start clamoring for things that should benefit people. One thing with so many of our political leaders is many of them become short-sighted when they're in public office. Yes, because some of the decisions you take are going to, outlive you.
They're far-reaching.
Yes, you leave a legacy too. So you take decisions so that in the next 20, 30 years to come, whenever your name is mentioned, it puts a smile on the lips of people that we had a leader like that. It's happening here in Benue. We refer to the first governor here because of the structures, the legacy he left. So this is the thing with the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who I would say had a huge opportunity to do a lot. So it's the same thing we're seeing with many other leaders here who are not thinking beyond the period they're in office. Power can be quite intoxicating. We say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Okay, now, one of the major agitations now, and it's very recent, is probably maybe is done subliminally, is agitation for regionalism.
Yes.
Do you think regional government can solve the issues that we have now?
Well, from my experience in observing various political systems across the world, I think the major problem with Nigeria is not the system, it's the operators.
Yes.
If we are sincere with ourselves, whatever system we practice will benefit us. There are monarchies that exist. Saudi Arabia is a monarchy. The United Arab Emirates, where Dubai is part of, is a monarchy. You understand? So this is Morocco is a monarchy. But go and check the cost of living and the general welfare of the people in those countries I've mentioned, and you see that's higher than here. So it takes conscientiousness by our public leaders that, look, when I'm in office, for me to sit and enjoy this office or occupy my throne, I have to also take care of my people. So this is the thing missing when we talk about Nigeria. Our leaders go abroad, see what is happening, see how governance is going on. You know, I guess it goes back to the leadership recruitment process. We'll have people governing, but who are not capable of good governance because of the recruitment process. We need to rejig our recruitment process. Recently, at a particular function, a colleague of mine said that, look, why would Nigeria go well when the recruitment process, he said something, it looks easy, but it made me think a lot, and I think it makes sense that why would you have the same recruitment process for a cleaner as that of a president of a country with over 200 million people? The criteria for being a president of this country is just school certificate. If you go and check the establishment laws, the criteria for becoming a cleaner is also a school certificate. It doesn't make, no country that's what is sought does not do that. You're going to look at 200 million people, you need to be, it's especially in the 21st century, you need to be more capable. You need to, you know, to be sound intellectually, so that you can address issues and all that. So this is where we are. It's not supposed to be so. So if we're really serious about this, that is where we should change.
So you are saying in a sense that it has nothing to do with the law.
It has more. It can't have the structures can also be problematic. But if the leaders have purpose, they can change it. We have what we call constitutional amendments, isn't it? Yes. When the leaders see that, okay, no, we need, these people have been agitated, they need a state, and we're united, we can come, please give these people a state so that they feel part and parcel of this Nigerian project we have. It's leadership, really. So when you have a leadership that feels for the people, no whatever system they may practice is not the issue.
Okay. Whenever the word restructuring comes up, for most people, the first thing that comes to mind is dividing Nigeria, breaking Nigeria, and they don't want us to ever see the day when Nigeria will be broken, but they'd rather have a more united Nigeria, speaking with one voice. Do you think for such people, they are right to hold this fear, you know, to not want Nigeria, you know, being broken down?
I never knew I would get to a situation now I'll actually throw in the towel about Nigeria's unity, but what I see, the signs we see, shows that if we're not careful, this country will not survive the current structure you see. Because why am I saying this? You see, you have to also develop also capacity for conflict resolution. You need to build strong national institutions that Nigerians will feel, you know, a strong affinity to. One of the most uniting institutions is the military. But how's the Nigerian military now? A lot of parts of this country don't trust our military. And it's a national institution. How about our judiciary? So it's very easy for you to now do your own assessment and see that, no, those national institutions and structures that should, you know, be the gum are the ones that are not doing the right thing. We have a situation in court, we give two judgments, one written, one oral, different. Why? We never had this kind of official confusion before. And these things, you know, erode the cohesion, the national cohesion we are supposed to have. If you take care of those causes of agitation, one, if you take care of Nigeria's economic problems, I'm telling you the agitations, almost 60% of it will stop. A lot of Nigerians are frustrated. Why am I part of a country that can't give me anything I want, can't protect me? Okay, I want to take care of my problem. Still, I want to go to the farm, for instance. I'm not allowed to because there's insecurity and the state can't protect me. would I have affinity for such a country? So a lot of people feel that, okay, if Nigeria breaks apart, well, so I have smaller units. It's just an assumption anyway. It doesn't mean that that's it.
But
Yes.
still under one
Yes,
umbrella.
yeah. So which will be better for us and all that. But my thinking here is the nature and character of our political leaders, and it goes back to the leadership recruitment process.
Yeah.
We need better, stronger criteria for recruiting leadership, and we should put bread and butter issues aside and go for the character. What is in this person? Once you put the right person in office, it's very easy to use.
So
It's
it
very
shouldn't
guns
be
very
a
clear.
question of if Nigeria should be restructured, but a question of seeing how we can actually.
There
put in
are
the
there
right
are no.
leadership.
Let me.
It's
Let,
more
okay,
of a
I'll put it
followers.
this way. There is a restructuring problem, but it's not as worse as that of a leadership problem, an adjust problem. In fact, recently, your former governor here and the Secretary Government of Federation, it's in the news. They were talking about leadership being a challenge the country has. So there's that. So it's something we know. Once you have the right kind of the right kind of leadership will gather the best technical hands, and you just see it translating into actions. It's very, very
If
clear.
you're in a
Yes.
committee that is designed to select the leaders that we need, the leaders that unite this country and probably put this restructuring matter to rest, what are the characters you suggest?
Okay, let me give an analogy.
Yeah.
When Martin, you know of Martin Luther King and his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, and there's a clause in that speech, and he said clearly that I long to see the day where I will not be judged by the color of my skin, but what?
By his
The
character.
content of my character. What is the content of the character of most of our leaders? If you go to the community, in our villages, and you ask them to select somebody for a responsibility, they will tell you who the person is.
Yes.
They don't mince words. Who is the person here who can take care of our money? They know. You suggest the person they don't want's name, they will tell you, not this one. They know the people. Why can't we do the same thing? There's even a video I watched. A pastor, I still have that video. He said, how many of you suggest or want this particular person voted? Everybody in the congregation raised his hand and said, okay. What's the basis for this? So he's popular and all that. Say, how many of you will want your children to be like the person you suggested? No hand went up. So can you see the problem?
Yeah.
We, the electorate, are also part of the problem.
Yeah.
We have not raised the standards for recruiting leadership. If we do this and we do this with progressive mind, we'll stop having funny persons put in public office and messing us up. This is the truth about it. In other countries, they don't toy with leadership recruitment. No. You must have a particular character trait. They know your tendencies. They know all that. It's taken into consideration, because if you're the kind of person who is temperamental, and you're given power, you will kill people.
Yeah.
In a fit of anger, you will do something so you need somebody who is balanced, somebody who has the people at heart. When you have that kind of leader, it's very easy. Whatever problem, there's a progressive way to resolve it. I tell you, when the political leader wants a change to happen in this country, it's very easy. How long did it take for the national anthem to change? Because the president desired it. The fastest constitutional change I've ever seen. So you understand, the political leaders have the power to do what they want to do. We've given them that already. But what is the character of our political leader? That is where the question really is. We should now remove things like ethnicity, religion, he comes from this side, and look at
You preempted me.
yes.
Yeah.
How capable is this person? Mentally, morally. These two. Is this the kind of leader we have that will take so many things, will consult, would regard the people? Once you have that, it's very easy. We're living in Nigeria now where a lot is happening. Recently in 2 states, in Bauchi and recently in Osun State, this House of Reps member was going to visit his people. You may have seen the video. What happened? They rained stones on the jeep. That you don't need anything more than that.
Yeah.
You can't say it's just thugs and no. If you are very popular in your community, that's your community.
Yes.
That's your constituency. You can't say as a leader you are elected, then people will come at you like that in your own constituency. It doesn't make sense. You became unpopular because of the things you were doing. It's as simple as that. Who provides the basic security for you? Your people. Your people. So this is a whole thing about restructuring and all that. There's need for restructuring. Yes, even America has restructured, but there's something that comes before restructuring, and that is progressive leadership. Once you have that, restructuring is easy. Because let me tell you something. There's a danger with this restructuring thing. If you have the wrong kind of leaders and restructuring is also done in a faulty manner, we'll have more problems in the system. It won't solve anybody's problem.
To be replicated at
yes,
various
you just recycle the problem. Yeah. But if you have leaders that are purposeful, that okay, this is the desired outcome. Let's put everybody together. Let's sit at the table and discuss favorably how we'll resolve this issue. You are not part of this because of your population. Why don't we do it this way? Let's concede this to you and all that. I think if we do that, we there's this element of every Nigerian is my brother. I think we'll be different. Shehu Sani, this commentator, said something yesterday. There's a recruitment process for the chief medical director in one of the ministries in Zamfara, and this lady is a citizen of Zamfara. She's one of the top doctors, but I think she's not of the Islamic faith, and she was rejected. And he was complaining that you don't do that. Look at the capacity she has. We should go beyond that, and this is in her own state, but because she's from a different religion. So these are the things we're talking about. How are you going to feel if you come from a state but you're being rejected because of religion? As good as you are, somebody who people want. These are the things we should talk about and go beyond. When countries that are advanced on this democratic journey want to recruit leadership, they don't look at those parochial things. They go beyond. They look at competence. And that's why Barack Obama can become president.
So
that's why Rishi Sunak can become prime minister.
And from how I'm seeing now, even if Nigeria succeeds with restructuring and still get it wrong at the point of leadership, then there will still be a problem of underdevelopment, still with these agitations. It will still be the same problem because even in that smaller unit, the leader will still not bring in dividends of democracy to the people.
Yes.
So it shouldn't even be a question of if Nigeria should be restructured right now.
If you restructure and you don't resolve the issues of leadership, even at the micro level, you see the same problems of oppression. I don't know about.
Does it even look like Nigerians?
We've all experienced an irate neighbor along when you live with that, you know what it is.
Does it even look like Nigerians are ready to even address this issue of leadership, going with the fact that perspective differs? I have seen arguments from both sides where one argue in favor of the current administration as being a good leader that is delivering dividends, and the other equally come up with strong arguments against that leader. And so I wonder how, with this kind of different perspective as to what good leadership is, or delivering dividends of democracy, for some group, once the money is going round, they are happy, they are enjoying dividends of democracy. But for others, when a society where infrastructure development is setting in, they are happy, they are seeing dividends of democracy. How will Nigeria ever get to this point where they actually, because it appears that they don't even know what, or they can't see what development should or is?
Oh yes, we are a country on a journey. Other countries that are more advanced that we admire, you know, if you are talking with people, basically, you suddenly hear things like, if we're in the United States or here in the UK, or you know, people who have been there and have come back can now weigh it clearly where a public system is working, where service delivery is super high. In Dubai, you can phone a filling station, they'll bring the fuel to your house. That's the level it has gotten to. Service delivery is very, very good. Now, what transposes this with Nigeria, or in contradistinction in Nigeria, we don't have that. Some people have a myopic interpretation of what public office represents. So they've built a microculture within the prevailing political culture that is negative. It is this microculture that has created the insecurity you see, because it does what? It reduces, one, the quality of leadership. it reduces the quality of governance over time because it leads to the diversion of public funds. And when you have that diversion, infrastructure becomes poor, the salaries are not paid, there's unemployment. You just create all the necessary things that create an explosive environment. What you have young people who you don't give them hope, what is going to happen? They'll be recruited to form militia groups, and when they do, the state will not rest. So it's no, you can't even compare. The standards of good governance are known to all of us. We know them. Let's stick to them. There's no place where primitive accumulation has transformed a society. No, it's good leadership that does that. Any country of the world, as we speak, go check. It's always there's a particular leader that comes in and insists on the right thing to be done, and when that leader goes and leaves a legacy, it's done. That country is on the path. This is when you deviate from that, you have problems. The United States a few years ago had a challenge, and you could see they quickly, when there's the leadership crisis, they go back to the rules of the game. What do the rules say? And they stick to those rules. So if you are not the person to abide by those rules, the system throws you out. This is what you do. So you don't have a situation, you have people with very inane, tendencies who now start propagating, a culture that's inimical. How sustainable is that even? We're getting to situations where states are even broke. And you constantly pick. How would they feel if you are living large? We talked about people stoning leaders now. Now, if Nigeria is very angry, we'll have NSAS. So don't think that Nigerians are silly. They are watching. And they are more knowledgeable now because of the access to information. Yes.
I'll need you to separate. There may be a very thin line between good leadership and the restructuring we're agitating. I need you to separate it because sometimes you're talking about good leadership, you might delve into restructuring. Yes. You talk about restructuring, you might even delve into good leadership. So if Nigeria can imbibe what good leadership is, do we really need to agitate for this restructuring we're talking about?
No, there are two different things. Restructuring simply means that the system you are practicing, especially the administrative or economic system, there's something wrong with it. It could be the amount of taxes you pay, it could be the process of importation of goods, it could be the criteria for leadership, like I said. You understand? You could see the electoral law was tinkered with to allow electronic processes to help so that we get a more transparent and credible electoral process. That is what reforms do. You understand? And if they are progressively done, the outcome is usually beneficial. Leadership is the art of managing resources so that that objective of taking your country, your organization to the next level is achieved. A good leader knows amongst people what to do, the people to select, so that he moves the people to that level. Bad leadership is when you see somebody is in that position but doesn't care much about the people. He's more interested in personal development or the development of his people.
Yes.
When you do that, you generate heat, you generate a situation of resentment and the calls for marginalization. What you now see happening in Nigeria, you travel on roads that are not good, you don't have security and all that. The signs are there. It's not rocket science. So this is the distinction between the two. But what we're saying is that leadership can drive reforms, because not all reforms are good. Sometimes you experiment with maybe a structural realignment, you see that it didn't go well, you have to go back to the drawing table. But if there's sincerity of purpose by the leadership, reform and restructuring programs go well. This is what we're talking about. So it's in the main material. If we say parliamentary system, if you elect a parliament and the people there don't care about people, you still see the same kind of situation. If you read books by Chinua Achebe, a man of the people, you'll see what parliamentarians were doing in the 60s. It's no different from what some of them are doing now.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's a good place
another
to...
fear for restructuring is due to the fact that some states are more blessed in terms of resources than others. And so there is this fear that the restructure, because others are benefiting from the blessedness of some states as well. And so they would rather not have Nigeria being restructured because of their weakness on their part. Do you think this is actually a strong reason?
Yes,
for not
in
wanting
fact,
to
you
come
may need to answer that after this break.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Please
right.
stay with us. We've been discussing the vision for peaceful restructuring in Nigeria, and of course, we'll be delving into the battles for America's highest office. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We've been discussing with Dr. Frank Bagen, lecturer, Benue State University, international affairs analyst. Mercy asked a question and you're about to tackle it before we went on break. Maybe you still repeat the question, Mercy?
Basically, it was more about the unequal lessons from different streets, and if there should call for restructuring, how it will affect those other ones. Therefore, they'd rather not have restructuring happen in the first place.
They say in a democracy, majority have their way and minority have their say. I think the thing for a leader is your common good should affect most of the people.
Yeah.
You understand? Posterity will judge you correctly if you've done well and you took reforms that elevated the lives of most of your people. It will come to a time where even those who think differently now will also do things differently because the culture has changed. In certain places in Nigeria now, you can't go with bags of rice to bribe them anymore when there are elections. They will tell you off because they've seen that no, this doesn't help us. We want somebody who will come and make sure the gutters are there or have electricity. We have to move away from personal satisfaction to communal satisfaction. It's a mindset. When that changes, it will be easy for us to now demand for good leaders. When you have put somebody or the recruitment process is going on, you see the people who say, we don't want this one. He did this and this and this. We are not going to support this one. There are certain candidates the people rejected. We know them and they couldn't emerge because the people said no. Right from the grassroots, people said we don't want this particular one. We're not going to give it. If you insist on this one, we'll vote for this other person. And then they said, we can't push you out there. So this is the kind of situation. But it's with time. What has compounded our situation is poverty, economic pressure. So it has made, our people to be, weak and easily manipulated by politicians and other political leaders who feel that that's all they need to do. You give somebody maybe 50,000, and that's all the person is going to see for the next 4 years. I think we should move away from that kind of mindset to demand more. Once you demand more, you see leadership will improve. You will know that you are leading people who you can't take for granted. you have to deliver the dividends of democracy, or else you'll be shown it's beginning to happen. You'll be shown the door by the electorate. The electorate has to know that, look, we are the ones doing the recruitment, so we should be serious about this.
Okay, let's shift our attention to the international scene. Recently, Donald Trump, the former president of United States, and Mr. Biden had
a debate.
And people are already speculating that, in fact, to quote somebody from the United States, Biden received a bashing from Donald Trump. Now, I need you to give us an overview of this election that is coming. Of course, there's going to be another debate in September.
Yes.
Give us an overview of this debate, and of course, towards the election. What is your take about the probable outcomes of this debate as leading to the elections?
There's a factor that has worked against the current president of the United States. Okay. And it's that factor that a lot of analysts are looking at, his age. Age and the effects of the age. I guess I'll put it at the effects of the age, because you can be 92, but if you are sprightly and there's nothing wrong with you, it won't bother people so much. But if you've observed President Joe Biden over the last 1 year or so, the number of times he's fallen down in public, the number of times he's trying to express himself, and you could see that there's a challenge in recalling information. Many times he's talking to people and it seems as if he's adrift. Those kind of things may not be issues, but when you are now put with someone who doesn't manifest those problems, it will be clearly seen as if the person is better than you, even if he is not. The debate is one of the platforms for us to see how, these particular people who want to vie for office will carry on, but it's a limited aspect of assessing the personalities who want office. I believe in looking more at track record. Yes, a debate, sometimes there's something we call off days. You may go for a debate and it's your off day, you may just not be in your element, and your opponent may seize the key and decide to go to town on you.
In your opinion?
I was getting to that.
All right.
In this particular outing,
yes,
Trump had the better hand, you understand, because of what he was able to. And then the damage control response Joe Biden's wife wanted to do didn't help matters. It even made obvious the problem he has. So the question Americans are asking now is, if we give this man another 4 years, would we still have him as president? Would he have the capacity to administer this country? Because I remember I watched the video, there's a time she came, was praising him, you did well, you remembered everything you're supposed to remember in front of national television. So how is he? You could see she's yes, so you could see with that, this thing is actually more serious than we thought. So it's based on that, because both presidents have the capacity to rule. Joe Biden has also ruled. And see, the thing is, we on the outside may be thinking, this president is better than this particular president. But I want to tell Nigerians and the world something. The United States has what we call national interest. No matter the character of the president, you don't play with those interests. You don't. If you do, you'll be shown the door. So I also said previously that the institutions are strong, very strong institutions. There's something we political scientists refer to as relative autonomy. Relative autonomy is the capacity of the state to checkmate the political leaders when they go wrong. Nigeria, we don't have that. You can see when a particular Nigerian politician is strong, he can do what he wants. And you don't have to go far. We had a former governor of Kogi State who was invited by a national institution and he evaded it. What has happened? Can you try that in the United States? At least, and you are living a precedent here. So you're telling me now that if the FCC invites me and I refuse to go and I'm able to provide muscle for myself, I'll be left alone. You don't do that. You respect the institutions of the state because people are watching. This is what we're talking about. That is why a Bill Clinton could be prosecuted in his presidency by the state and found guilty for violating his oath of office.
Okay, now, because of his outing, we are thinking about Kamala Harris, and I think somebody made mention of Obama's wife. Michelle
Yes.
Obama. What is your take on that?
Well, you see, the election, the previous election of Donald Trump made me realize one thing. America may be an advanced democracy, but you cannot rule out the prevalence of certain norms or certain ideological persuasions. In the popular vote, Hillary Clinton won by over 3 million votes. It's the collegiate votes that Trump won. Now, it shows an underlying thing. Americans were simply not ready for a female president. So the question to ask now is, are they ready? From what I see, I don't think they are yet. If they were, you will have a female candidate already.
Okay, now,
as the presidential candidate
you
in
see,
one of the parties, yes.
The battle between Biden and Trump.
Yes.
Obviously, if it has to go by the debate, Americans have made their choice from the poll that I saw yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, now, but there's somebody else that is coming in. Is an independent candidate.
Yes.
That is one of the Kennedys.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
The man is articulate.
Robert Kennedy's son.
Yes. The man is articulate. The man has stayed around power. In fact, he said he had lived in the White House because his uncle was president.
Yes.
And his father was the Attorney General also.
Yes.
So
Robert Kennedy. Robert
so
Kennedy,
he was always in the.
He was around power. Yeah.
Power
yes.
and all that.
Yes.
Then of course he's a humanist. He's a philanthropist and all that. But the good thing about him that the Americans love was that he's a Kennedy.
Yes.
Now he's also racing for the most powerful seat in the world. Do you think his coming can affect Trump's success? Because people love him.
Yes.
People love him. From the polls I've gathered, he even has more than Trump.
People loved the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in Nigeria, but did it translate to the presidency?
Okay, but you can't compare Nigeria and US.
No, there are
terms of
there's something. I'm pushing the torch to something else now.
All right.
One of the beauties of the American system, which I think our National Assembly is trying to also introduce, and we've agitated for this, is independent candidacy.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of maybe Senate elections, that is, we're talking about the U.S. Congress, for our House of Representatives and Senate. If we look at statistics, the number of persons who have won as independent candidates are very few.
Yes. The last I remember was Ross Perot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ross Perot didn't even go far with his Green Party. Yeah. You understand? So I look at statistics. I'm an analyst. What do the statistics say? If there's a tradition of independent candidates winning over time, yes. But when you're dealing with an entity that is well connected, they can frustrate you because they have the connections. Fine and good, the American system is more advanced, but there's something about an individual fighting a system.
Yeah.
A political party becomes a system.
Yes.
As this man has become our symbol of leadership, you're all up in arms to protect his votes, to do campaigns and all that. But if America, I'm also of the opinion that I say never say die, because we can see a situation of an upset. It can happen.
Yeah.
For the first time, Americans are not very impressed with the candidates of these two political parties. If there was somebody younger, maybe it will also.
I get now where they now have to choose between the two.
Yes. So that's why it's based on that he's saying that. How about this independent candidate? I said yes, it's a good thing, but it would have been better if he's in one of the traditional political parties, the Democratic Party or the Republican, because the system is well entrenched. And why am I saying this? In the history of the United States, if you look at the three three categorizations: Republican Party, Democrats, and independent candidates. You see that most of the candidates that have been produced to rule are either from those two parties, and only very few are
And
independent.
again, going with the fact that America have a reputation to protect as being a peace setter or maintaining peace, and right now we find ourselves where globally there seems to be either war or threats of war here and there, and then the world have its eyes on America to see its position, who it's going to align with or who it's not going to align with, how it's going to come in here to send its place. And aside from settling wars and dispute or crisis globally, economically they have their own crisis right now where things are not economically stable, and even Americans are complaining a lot about hardships and several other things right now. So the character of the president, I think this is where they will now prefer someone who is more strong, that has more strong political will and is a bit more blunt to even tell the other part of
Yes,
the world.
the economy is a factor.
Yes,
The
maybe
management of
he
the
should
economy.
pursue that.
Yes,
telling us their policies.
Yes,
Compare their policies.
well, we could see what Biden has been able to do. He has been able to initiate more wars, and a war leaks.
And if Biden loses out on this election,
Trump
then it will
didn't.
affect
Trump was more
Russia.
tactful
Yes.
in picking the battles he fought. We never had a full escalation of wars during his time.
Yeah.
So that's why some people are preferring him now, because when he was president, there was no major war.
Yeah.
And he has said, he even used it in his campaign, that if he were president, the Ukraine-Russian war would never have occurred. He would have found a way to, stop that conflict from escalating to the level it escalated. And also they would have found a way to handle the Israeli-Hamas
Even the
conflict too.
Afghanistan.
Yes, all those ones,
Yeah.
he said so. And if you look at the 4 years, honestly, when he was there, we didn't have any major conflict. He was quite intimidating as a president. That didn't mean that he could not, hit hard when he wanted to. But the way he managed the situation has made Americans to feel that no, under him there may be some difference, because one fight was wars bleed the economy.
Yeah.
You deploy a lot of resources, and
Especially with the support that Biden is giving it to Ukraine right now in this
Yes.
Ukraine-Russian war, that some
Yes.
Americans are beginning to
to wonder,
compare
yes,
about
yes.
it.
That's what I'm trying to say. So that is also a factor. It's a very, very strong factor. Part of the problem some people had with Trump was his posturing. He's quite blunt.
Yeah.
And some people feel that in that bluntness, he may not appreciate certain ethnic segments in the American
Like the
population.
blacks.
Linked to racism,
Blacks and
kind of.
all that, and not,
Hispanics.
yes, even the LGBTQ
Yes.
community and
Yeah.
all that. So that is where his problem really is. In terms of leadership and in terms of his dominance of international affairs, I think if you're going to compare, well, it's there for all to see. He was actually a president that, despite his bluntness, was able to reach out. He impressed me somewhat. He's one of the few presidents that actually met the North Korean leader personally, and and also Putin had some admiration for him too, for that too. So when you look at these two personalities, one is definitely Biden is a warmonger, because we wouldn't be seeing plenty wars now.
All right.
So that's just it about
This is like
these two
a wrap up
personalities.
now.
Yes.
You need to talk to Nigerians, Nigerian government and citizens about how to go around this restructuring thing, so that at the end of the day we'll all leave the table happy. And of course, you talk to Americans concerning the elections that are coming in a very few, I think about 6 months from now, we'll be having the elections. This is a wrap up.
Yes. In terms of reforms, reforms are a never-ending thing. With humility, I was privileged to be part of the reform process for the Nigerian Constitution under the last administration at state level here. So I know that it's a process. It's a dynamic thing. Human life, society is not perfect. We always have these challenges. So the urge for reform is not a new thing. It's something that we should, even those countries, US, UK, carry out reforms, but they should be progressive reforms. That is the thing. So Nigerians should also continue to demand, better governance from their people, from the leaders. You shouldn't fold your arms. because you have the duty to keep the government on its toes. It's when the government receives this feedback that's able to now, carry out positive changes. So asking for a better day is not a bad thing. It's your right. And the social contract between the governors and the governed is sacrosanct. You should have to realize that you have the welfare of the people as your primary responsibility. And if you do that, I think you're able to do well in public office.
Talk to the Americans quickly.
For the Americans, well, they know where the shoe pinches. They've experienced the two presidents.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that they will also leave sentiments aside and elect a leader that will give the world some breathing space, some peace. Or fought too many wars. Whatever they do, or whoever candidate they decide to choose, the major things they should elect somebody in office who will be able to, project this image of America she's talking about as somebody, as a country that has the responsibility for world peace on its hands.
All right. Thank you very much for coming
Thanks
on
for
this show.
having me.
Next time we'll raise more interesting conversations, and I expect that you'll be here too.
My pleasure.
Discuss.
Thank you so
We've been talking to Dr. Frank Abagen. He's a lecturer at Benue State University, and he's also an international affairs analyst. The topic has been a vision for peaceful restructuring in Nigeria and the battle for America's highest office. We'll be shifting our attention to the papers, but that will be after this break.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 30th June 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form cost
Welcome back. We reached the segment of newspaper headlines, and our first choice of paper this morning is The Nation. We have above the masthead: customs impounds guns, drones, others at MMIA. Items shipped from Turkey, one suspect held. You see that story on page 2. Dogara, federal lawmakers not earning jumbo pay. Page 4. Banned electricity consumers. Tariff now 209 naira 50 kobo per kilowatt per hour. That story is on page 28. You see.
All right, let's move on now to Daily Trust, and the lead story here says LGBT Nigeria signs $150 billion Samoa deal. The writer: clerics, CSOs furious. It's not about same-sex marriage, ministers aid. National Assembly didn't consider agreement, Rep UC. You find that story on page 4. And if you flip over to the paper, the Cotton Cafe Royal Rumble, Kings and Nigeria's Democratic Culture, is a story that you find. And from sports, Golf storms past qualifier to reach third round. And that's why Talpa with us to take a look at stories from Daily Trust.
Our next choice of paper is New Telegraph. The leading story here said Akpabio blames Goza suicide attacks on security intelligence failure. That story is on page 2 and 5. The writer says harps on preventive security. Senators stress use of modern war facilities. Return of suicide bombing worries can. Below the Pictorial, you have Southeast NAS caucus begs Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu. The story is on page 3 and page 5. Above the masthead, again, NERC hikes electricity tariff for Band A customers. CBN to penalize bank rejecting old mutilated Naira notes. That page is on page 25. That's the much you can take from this paper.
Alright, let's move over to Daily Sun now, and the latest story here says NEMA issues flooding alert in 31 states. The rider warns of high moderate epidemiology final story on page 6. Beside the masthead terrorist attacks, the Senate identifies Lake Chad, Sambisa as Boko Haram hotspot, urges security agencies to deploy modern technology. And beside the pictorial story here, Southeast senators meet AGF, begs Tinubu for Nnamdi Kanu's release. Kaduna group petitions EFCC, ICPC over alleged 423 billion naira fraud against ex-governor El Rufai. Again, this cause raised tariff from 206.80 naira kilowatts to 209.5 naira 5 kilowatts. Page 23 is where you find that story. At the bottom of the paper, petroleum producers raised the alarm on crude oil importation. The rider say Nigeria may be unable to meet the domestic refinery demand. Page 25.
With that, we've come to the end of today's episode of Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. Please do stay tuned for the rest of our programs, especially the 9 o'clock news that is coming on in a few minutes. My name is Stephen Abba.
My name is Mercy Oba. Please stay with us.
Hello, here is the weather report for Thursday. And let's quickly look at the weather here in Benue State. The atmosphere will be very cloudy with possibility of thunder outbreaks and rain falling all day long over parts of Makodi, Otuko, Boko, Kasinala, with temperature low around 23 degrees Celsius and high around 27 degrees Celsius. Humidity of 54% with 50% probability of precipitation. We anticipate similar weather conditions over parts of the Federal Capital Territory, with the temperature varying between 22 degrees Celsius low and 26 degrees Celsius high. The very humid atmosphere will become unstable with early morning fog giving way to low cloud and stormy rains in the afternoon towards the night hours in Ekiti State, with temperatures low around 21 degrees Celsius and high around 27 degrees Celsius. That's it from here. Join us again for another weather report. I am Loretta Cole.